Oh, hello. In today's episode, we're going to learn how to effortlessly backfloat, effortlessly backglide. This is Learn to Swim with Me, episode number 5. I'm Coach Jeff. Let's begin. Step number 1 of finding your effortless, perfect backfloat is just finding a spot on the wall. So what I'd like you to do is hold onto the wall with both hands, and then we're actually going to bring both of our feet and legs up off the bottom of the pool and just hold them tight to the wall like this. And what this is going to allow us to do is a couple of things. Number 1, start to get the feeling of weightlessness in the water. Number 2, it's going to help us get used to and get comfortable with putting our head back in the water. And number 3, and along with, and very similar to number 2, is we're going to start to get used to the sensation of getting our ears wet. And this tends to be one of the most challenging aspects for new adults to get used to, is the feeling of water in your ears. It's just a little bit uncomfortable. And so this is a really controlled way to allow us to get used to that movement and that feeling. So what we're going to do, as I mentioned, bring our feet up on the wall. And then I just want you to spend somewhere between 15 and 30 seconds with dipping our head back, looking up at the sky or the ceiling with our ears in the water. And the movement looks like this. Now, some of you might not have a gutter system that works like this. So if your wall is much higher than where the actual water level is, then I urge you to find a ladder, and we can do that same exercise. So let me show you what that looks like with a ladder. Basically, we're going to grab onto, what are these called? The railings of the ladder, and then bring our feet up maybe to the bottom stair of the ladder. I'm awful at describing this, but it's okay. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to lean our head back for 15 or 30 seconds. So that is going to look like this. Now stick around to the end of the videos. I will cover 2 or 3 things that you can do if you get water stuck in your ear to both help get it out, dry it out, and make sure you don't get an ear infection. So make sure to stick around to the end of the video for those tips and tricks. Step number 2 is to go back into the same movement as we did in step number 1, only this time we're going to include 2 additional things. Number 1, we're going to start to take a deep diaphragmatic breath and hold our breath while we're on our back. One of the keys to a successful and effortless backfloat is using air in our lungs to help keep us buoyant in the water. And so we want to practice that now when we're on the wall. Number 2 is I just want you to go through a body scan and scan to see if you're carrying any tension in your body. One of the ways that you will immediately start to sink in the water during a backfloat is if we're super tense. So while we're on the wall in a controlled setting, I just want you to go through a body scan and try to remove any of that tension if you have it in your body. So step number 2 will look like this. Now, what you may have noticed is my cheeks puffed up when I was taking a deep breath. I did that so that I could show you at home the process of taking a deep breath. If your cheeks puff up or if they don't, both are totally okay as you're practicing this movement on your back. But the most important part of that is that you're getting a full deep breath and trying to hold it for around 10 seconds or for however long is comfortable for you. Step number 3, we're actually going to start to let go of the wall or the ladder with a full intentional deep breath and begin our effortless back float without the support of the wall. After I show you this example, I'm going to walk through 3 keys to success. But first, let me show you what an effortless back float looks like. Here are 3 keys to let me try again. Here are 3 keys to effortless back floating. Key number 1, we need our head to be looking slightly behind us. One of the biggest mistakes that new swimmers make when they're going into their back float is they like to look at their toes. The problem with that is it will immediately make us sink to the bottom of the pool. Let me show you a incorrect way of going into our back float with our head position where I'm looking at my toes, and then I'll correct that and show you the proper way in take number 2. So here's number 1 where I'm looking at my toes. Watch how quickly I sink. Now watch how quickly my body becomes buoyant again just by returning my head position back to looking slightly behind me. Check this out. Key number 2 is getting a proper deep breath. And what I mean by that is a proper diaphragmatic deep breath. So what is not a proper deep breath is a chest breath like this, which is how most of us nowadays tend to breathe. We need it to be much deeper. So we're going to expand our stomach, pull that air up into our chest, and then get one more. That is a deep breath. So once again, I'm going to show you what it looks like and how quickly I sink to the bottom in example number 1 when I'm not taking a deep breath, and then how much more buoyant I am when I take a deep breath. Check this out. Here's example number 1 where I don't take a deep breath. Now watch how buoyant I am when I take a deep breath. And then what I'm going to do is actually touch my nose, which I'm pretending is like a release valve. And I'm going to show you how quickly I sink back down to the bottom of the pool again once I let all that air out. So check this out. And key number 3 is our arm position. Now, most of my students find the most amount of success with their arms just straight out to the side, kind of like an airplane. However, there are some of my students that do a little bit better with their arms going higher up, and some that do a little bit better with their arms further down, closer to the side. So what I would like you to do is to explore that entire range to find where your buoyancy is the best. For me, it's with my arms directly at my side, so that's what I'm going to show you now. Now, this is the stage of back floating where every student says something like this: Coach Jeff, now that I'm up on top of the water, how the heck do I get my feet back down on the bottom? So if that sounds like you, we now are going to cover how to stand back up, because it's a little trickier than our front floating, and I want to make sure that you're 100% comfortable when you do this so that you don't get caught on the surface of the water wondering how the heck do I get back down. So there are two strategies that I would like you to try to see which one you're most comfortable with in order to get your feet back down on the bottom of the pool to stand back up. Way number one is by slowly starting to relook at our toes. Now, I know in the prior scene, I just told you that the key to successful backfloating is to not look at our toes, but for this part, we actually want to sink to the bottom of the pool, at least our feet, so that we can stand back up. So let me show you what that looks like now. Now, please, please, please do that movement slowly, because it can be a little traumatizing if we start looking at our toes too quickly. Let me show you what that looks like now. Way number two for standing back up is a little bit more complicated, but let's practice it anyways. It's going to go in two steps. Step number one, we're going to draw our feet in towards our chest, kind of like we're sitting in a chair. And then we're going to do a big circle with our arms. And that's going to shift our momentum forward so that we can bring our feet back down to the bottom of the pool. But better than me explaining it, let me show it to you right now. Which way did you choose to stand back up? Leave a comment in the comments section below with one, if you just started looking at your toes, or way number two, where you tucked your feet and moved your arms. Leave a comment now. And congratulations, you can now successfully backfloat. From here, we're gonna start to add arms to the movement so that we can actually start propelling ourselves through the water effortlessly on our back. So here is what that looks like. It's going to be done in three very specific movements. Movement number one, we're going to bring our arms up to our armpits like this. Step number two, we're going to bring our arms straight out like we did earlier, sort of like an airplane. And then step number three, we're going to pretend like we're flying like a bird, and we're just going to bring our arms back down to our side. So once again, step one, hands up to our armpits. Step two, arms straight out to the side. Step three, move those arms down to our side. And that process looks like this. Now notice my head position is still looking slightly back, but I am including what we call rhythmic breathing at this point while I'm on my back. Here's what that means. We need to both be inhaling, holding in that air to create buoyancy, but we don't want to hold our breath the entire time, right? So we have to also exhale. So the timing of this is very important. We want to inhale as our arms are coming up and out to the side, and we want to exhale as our arms are pushing down to our side. And the reason for that is we have the most amount of momentum in the water when our arms are going down to the side, right? And that's going to help offset that buoyancy that we lose when we're exhaling. The momentum will help hold us up high in the water while we're exhaling. And so that is why we want to be exhaling when our arms are going down to our side. Watch me do that exact movement one more time, only this time pay attention to the rhythm of my breathing. All right, now you have the proper technique on how to propel yourself through the water effortlessly on your back and we know how to rhythmically breathe so that we can maintain our buoyancy in the water. From here, I want to talk about the two most common mistakes that new swimmers make when trying or beginning to propel themselves through the water. And far and away, mistake number one is not doing this effortlessly or using too much force throughout the entire movement. Remember, this is meant to be peaceful and effortless. It's not meant to be like we're just flopped off a cliff as a baby bird and can't fly, so we're flopping our wings as hard as we can. I hope that analogy lands. I don't know. But nonetheless, let me show you what not to do, which is looking like that baby bird, flopping its wings quickly. And then I'll show you what to do. Check it out. Here's way number one, what not to do. Now, did you notice how quickly I was sinking in the water, even though I was trying harder? Remember that the water is a mirror, and it's reflecting your inner state. When you are calm and at peace, the water is going to want to hold you up. But when you're forceful, just trying to get from point A to point B, or you have fear or anxiety that you're bringing into the water that's unresolved, well, it's going to reflect that too, and you're going to sink immediately in the water. If that sounds like you, by the way, please take a step back and go back to episode number 1 of the Learn to Swim With Me series. I will link that right here and follow that entire progression. Remember, this is video number 5, so that you can ensure you are never bringing unaddressed fear into the water with you at all. Mistake number 2, I'm going to show you against my better judgment because it doesn't feel very good, and that is when we lean our head too far back and actually get water in our nose. And I urge you not to do this because it, as I mentioned, it does not feel good. But nonetheless, I'm going to show you in example number 1, what it looks like and what happens when we lean our head too far back. And then I'm going to tell you how to clear out your nose if it ever happens. And then I'll show you way number 2, just how to make sure that doesn't happen. So here's way number 1, what to avoid. Okay. So if that happens to you, a couple of things that are really, really important. Number 1, immediately try to blow it out. Don't be bashful or shy. Just pretend like the pool is a Kleenex and try to blow all of that out because it does not feel good. Number 2 is much more serious, which is try not to overreact to the circumstance or the experience, okay? Going into this, we know it probably isn't going to feel great, but once we clear that out, what we don't want to do is put ourselves in an unsafe situation because of our reaction to water going up into our nose. So if this happens, to the extent that you can, please just try to remain calm and don't overreact to the experience. I urge you not to put yourself in an unsafe situation because we're overreacting to this experience. And this takes us all the way back to the stand-up portion of this video where I want you to really practice a number of repetitions standing up in case something like this happens. It's kind of an automatic response, just stand up. And here is example number 2, an effortless and non-water up my nose provoking way of backfloating. Check it out. Congratulations to you. Not only can you backfloat, but you can start to create movement in the water and propel yourself across the pool with effortless back movement. Let me try that again. Congratulations, you now can both back float and back glide effortlessly. This is a huge step in your learn to swim progression. Congratulations. Now, I promised earlier in the video for a couple tips and tricks that you can do in order to clean out your ears so that you avoid getting ear infections at this point in your learn to swim experience. Now, keep in mind, these are tools or tricks that I use that work for me. I'm not a doctor. This isn't medical advice. This is just something that I've used in the past that has helped me. So, number one, I think the best way to dry out our ears and prevent ear infection is just to do equal parts rubbing alcohol and white vinegar, and just have 2 or 3 drops in each ear at the conclusion of your swim lesson. Once again, this works for me. I'm not telling you to do that, and it is not medical advice, but if you'd like to try it, leave a comment in the comment section below on how it works for you. There's also a great product which I am not affiliated with, but I will link to this in the description below. It is called Big Wave, and it is a ear drop intentionally designed to help dry out swimmers' ears, to help get all the water out and make sure you don't get an ear infection. Once again, I'll link that in the description below. Now, here is what you have to look forward to coming up in episode 6, where we are going to cover how to roll over from our back to our front and then roll back onto our back again to get a fresh breath. Check it out. As always, if you find these videos helpful, please do a couple of things to help support our channel. Number one, like the video, share the video. If you know anyone that needs to learn how to swim, make sure to subscribe to our channel. And if you are on your learn to swim journey as an adult, come check out our free Caribe Swim adult learn to swim community. The link I'll put in the description below. We are just an incredible community of adults helping each other all overcome our fears, anxieties, apprehensions around the learn to swim experience, and helping each other learn to swim without fear and with 100% confidence. Once again, I will link that in the description below, and I invite you to check it out and join our community. Thank you guys so much. Great job today. I can't wait to see you in the next video.